Welcome back to the Health and Social Care Business Podcast, where we talk about insights, challenges, and opportunities shaping the care sector today. This episode is brought to you in partnership with the Dorset Care Association, and I am so excited to host another insightful conversation about homegrown care talents with the amazing Anna Knight.
Good morning and welcome everybody. I am the Chief Executive of the Dorset Care Association and I work very closely with Jordan. Jordan has brought some of his team in to talk to us and we are really focused on homegrown talent, and today we're kind of spotlighting Red Jacket.
From recruiting and training over 200 students through Bournemouth University to building partnerships with Russell Group universities like Southampton, and even leaning to family to absorb the hidden cost of recruitment, Red Jacket is showing what it truly takes to build a local workforce from the inside out. You can't recruit experience, but you can build and create.
My name's Anna Knight. I am the Chief Executive of the Dorset Care Association and I work very closely with Jordan, who you can probably see below me right now. Jordan has brought some of his team in to talk to us and we are really focused on homegrown talent, and today we're kind of spotlighting Red Jacket, and that is the company that Jordan manages and oversees. So what I'm going to do is get Jordan to introduce himself and then the rest of the crew around him.
Good morning. I'm Jordan Towles. I'm the Director of Operations at Red Jacket and also one of the co-founders alongside Dad, CEO David Towles. And with me, I've got my amazing team. If you want to start, Callie.
Hi, I'm Callie. I am a care manager at Red Jacket.
Okay, Jude.
I'm Jude. I'm probably the newest member of the team. I'm a support worker. Yeah, based in Dorset, currently studying at university in Swansea.
Welcome. Millie.
I'm Millie. I'm the Care Services Supervisor for the Dorset Division at Red Jacket Specialist Care.
And I think the exciting bit here is, apart from me clearly being the oldest, is what an amazing crew we have in front of us. And this is the whole point of this episode about homegrown talent and how we attract younger people into the industry. Yeah. Over to you, Obi.
Jordan, could we just get to know a little bit more about you? What is Red Jacket?
So, good question.
Very interesting name.
Don't ask me why, because
Okay.
we come up with a different reason every time just to keep people on their toes. Dave has a few that he uses all the time, but generally we started off as a recruitment company. I came out of university not knowing what I was going to do with a music degree initially. And at the time, my parents have a medical agency background, so they have the knowledge to apply really to what we're doing currently. Started off in recruitment and it was basically recruiting anything and anyone for any role. We mentioned that we were specialists, but we definitely were not. We were just basically looking for the next placement, the next invoice. It was entirely transactional and very much dead end emotionally. Until one day we had a call from a GP surgery and they requested 2 support workers and asked whether we had those in our bank. Dave and I looked at each other and I said, yep, we definitely have those. We did not. And we decided to go out ourselves on a Friday afternoon for 5 hours at a time to go and visit these 2 lovely elderly ladies called Margaret, who were living in a residential home at the time and receiving domiciliary care. They had basically got to a point in their lives where they just didn't have any contact with family, even though they lived down the road. And the domiciliary care that they were receiving was very much a different person every single day. They had gone past all the small talk. They were bored of it. So they had basically gone inwards. When we started supporting them, Dave and I made a big thing of it. We're an Italian family at heart. And so we're all about the elderly, really, and looking after our elders. So we got done up to the nines, chaperoned them, hired a nice car as well for the sake of it for the first few sessions, and took them out into the community. A very funny image in my head of me and my dad and full whistles and with these 2 elderly ladies sitting in a cafe. But we noticed after a few weeks of visiting them, the reward we were getting from the support was astronomical compared to what we were getting from recruitment. And we could see immediately the difference in them over the weeks, and they were going out, they were visiting people. They had basically become recluses until we had got involved. And it was at that point we decided to ditch recruitment entirely and take a big risk. Basically, we had no business plan whatsoever. We just decided to switch to care and that's where Red Jacket Specialist Care came about. We weren't specialists at that point. We just had a gut feeling that people generally deserve better.
Jordan, I'm going to jump in then and say to you, you're right, people do deserve better. And I guess that's kind of an empathy-based statement. But also, did you realise at that point that some people were just getting an hour a day, 15 minutes a day? What kind of made you push forward and think this really is the way forward?
It was because they were our intel, really. They were giving us all the information as to what they're receiving from a domiciliary care perspective, and they were getting those 15, 30 minutes max at a time. And we realized that that was not nearly enough to form any sort of relationship with someone. So from the get-go, Red Jackets, we basically set ourselves the rule that we're not going to accept any support less than an hour at a time, at least. At minimum, because we felt that that was the minimum required to actually build a relationship with someone and actually build those bridges that we're all trying to achieve as providers. You need that minimum, really, to engage with someone. And from there, we sort of had the idea that we're not going to throw bodies ever. We still don't do that today. No matter how complex it gets, we never throw bodies, because it just doesn't work. It's not humane. It's not the way forward.
So I guess the story here is that you started it, you were on the floor, you got your hands dirty, you understood. So in terms of leadership, does that mean that potentially you can lead from the front and you understand bottom-up management rather than top-down?
Yeah, I mean, we're all, there's no ivory towers in Red Jacket. We're all very much on the ground when things happen, and I'm sure Callie and Millie can vouch for that as well. If something goes, obviously nowadays it's when it goes nuclear that directors are now directly involved as in on the floor. But we do show our faces. We are always there because we've been there and done that. And how can we expect our staff to lead by example if we haven't actually been there and actually engaged with these people on the front line, so to speak? So there was the first 2 years at least of Red Jacket where directors, so that's including my family now, but also Amanda as well, we were all out on the floor constantly. We were supporting, we were accepting packages of care, even though we didn't necessarily have the staff to at that point. We were doing it ourselves. So we're very much engaged with what is now really in the care industry.
So I know you because first you're a board member for the Dorset Care Association. Secondly, you do deliver a specialist form of care. And one of the areas that you then kind of moved into is learning disability, autism and challenging behaviour. So from Margaret and her friends to the new areas that you're in, how did that happen?
So there was, feels like it happened over a day, but it was over a good 3 or 4 years. COVID was almost like an accelerant for the company anyway, but we started with elderly care, and then we then got involved with the mental health team in Wiltshire, and they were basically pushing through people who had fallen through the cracks that don't necessarily qualify for domiciliary care, but that they need something a bit more bespoke, a bit more unique to their world. And that's why we basically set ourselves the target of never saying no. So we were, the social workers, etc., caught wind of this, and obviously we were getting all the hard cases through at that point. But we were able to change these individuals because of our approach. As you say, Anna, you know how we work anyway, but we're very much hands-on. We will break those boundaries, those restrictions on what people think care is, and commissioners know this, etc. But from mental health, we then started branching into LD and autism and adult care, and eventually children's services. And this all happened relatively quickly through the COVID years, to where we are today, where we are a leading provider in complex care in the Southwest. So we do everything from the sit downs and have a cup of tea with Margaret to beyond that, the challenging behaviours
So what's driving you, Jordan, and you keep mentioning the family, to push on in really tricky times in the care sector? What's driving Red Jacket to continue to thrive and grow?
I think it's the people that we have on board, the management especially. Like, we are all so enthusiastic, and it's beyond us. It's you're doing something that's just beyond you as a person, really. Your like to see the results is what drives us, really, is when we have these points in time where there's people that seem so dead end. There's no other option for them in the community. They can't be in the community, for instance. They can't engage with it's those cases which have really changed our perspective as individuals in the management team, because you are meeting people who are so under the radar that a lot of the general public have no idea that these people exist and like what their circumstances are. And that's sort of where we step in. And I think because we are such a young and driven team, as you can see, a lot of us are young in this meeting.
Yeah, all right, Jordan.
When we started Red Jacket, I was really keen on the idea of setting a new parameter for care.
I actually didn't know you had Italian roots, so that was new to me. I love learning about guests on the go. So when you said that, I was like, oh, that's lovely. Because when we spoke in the build up to this podcast episode, you mentioned how family was really important to you, and the ethos of Red Jacket is actually based around family. You said to me, your company ethos is let our family lead yours. And I just thought, how amazing. You also mentioned how your mom was actually at the heart of your building an amazing team. You mentioned your partnership with Bournemouth University and then Southampton and the role family plays in that. So could you just talk to us a little bit more about that?
Like I said, we are an Italian family, and that's very much encompassed what we do, because as the generalization is, like with Italians, like they're very much welcoming of everyone. Everyone is there. It's like if you're in that inner circle, you're in your family.
Yeah.
And that's sort of what we try to portray in not only our staff, but the people we support too. So that ethos, let our family look after yours, is encompassing of everything we do at Red Jacket. We will go beyond for staff members, especially, but because they are on the front line. So yeah, I feel like, and that's why, again, leading into I'll drop a little HR mention. We have our own HR team, and we have quite a significant HR team, because we've recognized the fact that what our carers, our support workers are doing in the community is incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
And then expectation for them to just do it. It's a job. It's not. It's far beyond that. People who are working in care are doing it because they genuinely do care. They are looking beyond their nose, so to speak, and that's why we are attempting to be as supportive as we possibly can as a company for these individuals.
I was going to say, because I did forensics for years, learning disabilities and challenging behaviour, and what people don't realise is that this care is going on in the community. That's number one. So people don't see it. But number two is that when Jude and Callie and Millie, myself and Jordan are doing that, you need a huge amount of support, because you do get battered verbally, emotionally, sometimes physically. And if you've got a provider who says, you know, we look after you like your family, not just the service users, the people we support, but also the people that work for us, that's how you keep your recruitment and retention going. And I think that's part of it. People don't always consider, what else can we do for our team?
So Jordan, before we speak to your team, how do you recruit an amazing team with individuals like Jude, who he's currently studying law, but he's decided to come and do work experience with your company? And then Millie and Callie, how do you go about forming and recruiting a team like that? You spoke to us about, well, previously you mentioned partnerships with universities. What is the process behind that? Because you're clearly very, very big on recruitment and recruiting well.
Yes.
And young. That's the key here.
And young. Yeah, absolutely. So how do you attract a young talent?
So to start from the beginning with how we started recruiting, it was just generally, we weren't looking for people with experience at all. We want individuals to join us that have that empathy and willing and drive to change someone else's life. From there, over the years, we've, like you said, we are now heavily involved with Bournemouth University. So I think we employ around, I think it's just over 200 students. And we've now just got involved with Southampton University too. Currently, Red Jacket employs, I think it's nearing 350 staff. The general demographic is below 30, because we are trying to portray care as something unique, as something, and it's very difficult. We're working within the parameters we are currently. And there's a lot of stuff in the news about general care. It all can seem very outdated. So our approach is very much hands-on. We will go to, for instance, with the uni, we're at their inset days, etc. We're always showing our face and trying to speak to students firsthand. There's times when we've gone to uni events in full force with I think it's about nearly 10 of us at a time, where
Wow.
we are bombarded though. When we go to these events, we have lines of people wanting to talk to us and
That's
understand Red
interesting.
Jacket.
Yeah, that's really interesting because when we spoke to Albert, he said care was never actually sold to us. So we didn't even know this was an option. So hearing from you saying, actually, we come as an army and we're in your face. We're showing you, we're doing all of these amazing things to sell care to the young individuals. How is it that we're not knowing people like Albert? Why don't they know about this?
You know what? The other thing that we really need to say here is one of the things that the term that Willow used was the BTS. We don't get behind the scenes.
Right.
When you're in university and you're a young person, or when you're at college and you're 16 to 18 and you see Jude, Millie and Callie rock up, you think, that's different. How come? Because when you see the 53-year-old Annas going, come and join care, it's great. They're like, oh, it's not really. But you've got 3 young people who are selling just by how they look and who they are. They're enthusiastic.
Absolutely.
That's the behind the scenes. That's the real thing. So Albert and Willow didn't have that opportunity. And if Jordan was in Leeds or Bristol or wherever, I'm sure they would have been approaching that. So we're very lucky in Dorset that there's some forward-thinking providers. And I guess that would kind of take me on a bit, because I know the other side of it, Jordan, as well, is that you're kind of working on education with your staff as well, aren't you?
Yeah, so we've recently, in the last 6 months, just opened up a training academy. We don't touch on the care certificate at all. We basically apply core skills training, which is under the NHS framework, so it's certified. And then we also have, on top of that, all these other bolt-ons, but our medication training is pharmacist-led, so it's very difficult. It's challenging for staff to actually get medication training, so it's an achievement time for those. And then on top of that, we have people who are medication safety officers, and we have all of these internal auditing tools and individuals that are constantly auditing what we are doing and only answer to, say, Jackie, and no other director, no other managers, because they're external and basically looking in on us on what we are actually doing and how we're performing and how staff are performing. Then obviously there's the general continued professional development within that. So if individuals want to grow even further, so like Millie and Callie, they're prime examples. They both started from mental health support worker and are now where they are today, where they're managing teams of quite a significant amount of people. It's
you say these skills are much more transferable, Jordan, rather than the care route. Like they're much more transferable for everyday jobs and stuff like that.
That's a really important statement, actually, because the reality is, having done the care certificate all those years ago and having to keep redoing these things, A, it's boring, B, it's not dynamic. And actually, what you need is to be a little bit inspired and to think, this is exactly what Jude just said. It's a transferable skill that I can take elsewhere. And the other bit, when you're going back to your homegrown talent, is if you know that a good big brother rather than a bad big brother is watching over you, protecting you, that can feed into Millie, that something might be wrong with her team, etc. That keeps growing the talent because people see they're being looked after, not being audited to catch them out, they're being audited to make them better. And that's a real positive.
When lots of times when we hear about innovation, because there's a narrative out there saying social care, there's no innovation. And this is exactly why we're doing this, because this is so innovative. This is you basically saying, yes, this is best practice, but we're doing something different and it's working. I think this is a good time to bring in your amazing team.
I'm going to talk to your team, Jordan, and just kind of find out if you're telling the truth firstly, which I hope you are. So let's go to Callie first. Hello, Callie. Callie, just tell me about your kind of route with Red Jacket, how it started and how you got to where you are today.
So I had a very different job to begin with. I left school and I went and completed an apprenticeship in a estate agency. So very different job. But I found
completely different sector.
Yeah, it was completely different. But that was where my realization come from, really. When I was out in people's houses, I wasn't interested in their houses. I didn't want to sell their houses, but I was interested in them and looking after them and making sure that the process was, smooth for them. And I was always happy talking to them. And it was always about as I say, them rather than the houses. So I think at that point, I realised actually care is something that I really want to go into. And I left my previous job with no other job because I wanted to find the right company to go into care with. I started with Red Jacket as a support worker. I was
How
doing.
long ago was that, Callie?
It was about a year and a half ago now. I started with Red Jacket. I was doing 12-hour days on the ground with multiple different clients. I done all different sorts of care, all different levels of care in all different areas. And then I became a team leader, which really enjoyed being a team leader, enjoyed being on the ground, working with the clients. And I progressed from there, really. I started going into the office more often. I then became a care services supervisor, and I was overseeing other managers within the office, helping them with their day-to-day tasks, and then eventually became a manager, and I manage our Wiltshire division, which includes complex care as well. So yeah, really love my job. Started down at the bottom as a support worker and then all the way to the top. And I think the main reason that I wanted to do it was because of the support I had from management in the beginning when I was a support worker. And I wanted to be that person to give that care and that support to the workers who were in the forefront with all of our clients.
I mean, that is a pretty tremendous story, really. I'm going to say one thing. The carers aren't at the bottom. We're often made to feel like that.
No, sorry. Yes.
No. We say it. We naturally say that.
Yeah.
But
Because that's how I would have phrased it too.
It's an amazing story, and it's clearly homegrown. So now I'm just going to go to Millie. Sock it to us, Millie.
So I joined just as I'd left college. I was looking to go to university to do law and criminology. So that's what I'd done in college. Although I'd had a really bad year, I really didn't enjoy it. And I'd always been one to love education. So I decided to take a year out so I could rethink it. Sort of saw the job on Indeed, actually. And I thought, give it a go. I'll see, if I don't like it, I don't like it. At least I've tried it. So I did that about a year and a half ago. Never left. So I joined as a mental health support worker for our Dorset team. I went into one of the most complex packages that we had at the time and just built the most amazing connection with him. I honestly to this day would do absolutely anything for him. So I then went up to a team leader, very similar to Callie, and then to senior team leader. So I was sort of in and out the office, and now I am the care services supervisor. So I still do support this individual just because I cannot leave him, especially not right now. So I support about 1 day a week, and then the rest of the time I'm in the office, managing the division, helping the staff. My biggest thing is I'm very lucky that Red Jacket was the first care provider that I joined with, because the support that I was given, I think, is why I'm still doing it now. And, if I had joined another care provider that wasn't able to give me that support, I could have very easily stepped back because I joined not knowing if it was what I wanted or not.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And yet again, it just shows a career pathway available and being able to see the talent that's there. Jude, I better declare my conflict of interest. You're my son, so you better be good. But you're new, we understand. So tell us briefly what's happening with you.
So before I worked at a brewery, so very different line of work, delivering beer, brewing beer. I don't know. So what appealed to me is like my uncle's got Down syndrome and spent a lot of time growing up with him, being very patient with him. He showed me a lot of love, and like it's different, isn't it? It's very fresh, this sector. A lot of people my age, they work in a pub or a restaurant, and this is just something that's fresh and it's very rewarding, and it's almost something that comes naturally to me. Like Mummy used to manage a care home. Spent countless hours at the care home with the residents and just building relationships and learning about people's lives and day-to-day stuff.
But there's a key point here, isn't there, that Callie and Millie are set and work and are engrossed in their role. You're not actually full-time employed because you're at university right now, entering your third year. So I guess the kind of conversation is, why are you kind of having that time away from university to work alongside Jordan and the team?
Like I said, I think it's something that it matters to me. And it's fresh. It's so different. I've worked in a lot of different areas. Like I've worked behind bars, restaurants, worked at the brewery. But I feel like there's something that's personal to me in a way. And I feel like that is applicable to a lot of people, whether it's someone who has a relative or a friend. someone who struggles or whatever, like it's rewarding. It's very rewarding.
What did you see in these guys, and why have you supported them to grow? Why invest in them? What's different?
I think it's when we see consistency in individuals. A lot of people are working in the care industry. You obviously got a lot of people that are jumping from job to job. And
Yeah.
the training is that first hurdle that people have to get through, because you're not allocated any shifts until you've completed that training. Once you've completed that training, then obviously the world is your oyster, so to speak. And that's where we are really watching individuals to see how they are progressing, how they're dealing with certain situations, whether they're coming up with ideas, because we're very open to, we will constantly implement and trial things. We won't just say no. And I think it's just the shining stars, really. It's people who shine through and are really making that difference. And we're like, wow, okay, let's keep an eye on this person. And if it's consistent, at that point, we then start to have those discussions around team leaders, junior team leaders. And as you've got with Callie and Millie, they're very humble with how they're explaining their route, but they're both incredible in their own right. They have changed lives.
Yeah.
And achieved outcomes that no other care provider previous to us could achieve with these individuals, especially with complex care and children's services. So I think it's just, as long as they fit within the ethos of Red Jacket. And that's why we find it so difficult to recruit for management outside of Red Jacket. We're all for internally promoting, because the ethos is the hardest part to sell, so to speak. It's the hardest part for anyone to be involved in. It doesn't work for everyone, and that's fine. Some people like a more cutthroat corporate kind of care company. I mean, we are fairly corporate, but that's because we have to, because of the size we are today. But we do keep those family links very much strong in what we do, because it's important, because otherwise you've got that high influx of staffing and the high staff turnover in the care industry.
I was going to say to you, the care industry is notorious for having high turnovers. And hearing Millie and Callie say, when I started, I loved it. I'm not going anywhere. I have to commend you, Jordan. I have to commend you and the Red Jacket team, because you guys are clearly doing something good to not only attract people like Callie, Millie, and Jude. Callie says she started off in a different sector, for example, and she knew that this is my passion. This is what I wanted to do. And she was lucky enough to find an organization like Red Jacket that was able to actually enable her just not only fulfill her passion, but grow in it as well. And then you've got Millie as well saying, I just fell into it. And I think you would probably attest to this from the previous conversations we've had. Lots of carers fall into the sector and they're falling and they fall out. They start and they leave. But you've grown, Millie. And this is what young people would want to know. Because a lot of times when I speak to younger people like yourself, they just see care as, we've heard the word side hustle in a good way, which is not a bad thing. To know that, Red Jacket, you guys, what you're doing, the structures you have in place, it's actually attracting people like Callie, Jude. I have to commend you. So my question is to Callie, actually. Since you've started, people like, would I say, same age bracket as yourself, like when you speak to them, what are the challenges they face? Do you have more of them asking you, like your friends, do you have them asking you to join or not asking you? What is the current, would I call it temperature? Yeah.
There are a couple of people that I know that have joined Red Jacket since I started. I think it's because they see me come home absolutely buzzing about my job. And I think when someone can see a passion that's so strong, they want to know what it's about and they want to go and try it themselves. So yeah, there are a couple of people that have joined off the back of me starting Red Jacket. It also brings its challenges with being a young manager. We put a lot of time into our work. We put a lot of time. And as Jordan said previously, anything happens, we're there. The managers are there, we're on the ground, and we're with our staff and our clients, and we're supporting constantly. It is difficult to sort of weigh up different parts of your life. But I think when you love a job so much, you do it.
So Millie, for another young, beautiful, amazing person like yourself watching this, thinking, okay, I think I want to give this a go. Could you paint a picture? What's a day at the office for you? So give them an idea of what they should expect.
So there are still days when, I go into the client's home and I'm there for 12 hours a day, supporting them, doing things like that. When I'm in the office, I'm monitoring things like their care plans. I'm
Okay.
looking at what staff are doing with them that day. If, staff have any issues, my biggest thing is making sure that, the staff are comfortable and they know what they're doing.
Okay.
And if they ever needed any help, I want them to be able to come to me, because I know how important that is, because that's what kept me there. So I want to be able to give that to the other staff. Yeah, just making sure that, they know what they're doing. If they need any support, I'm there. Everything's clear for them to see. If they're on shift, they can access documents that, they might need to access. Or, if they were to have any questions, they don't necessarily need to ring up the office and go through our admins and stuff. It's there and they've got it, and they're confident with that.
Yeah, so it comes with its stress, but you're well supported. And what people should expect if they were to go in a role like yours is a lot of support, especially if you're going to work with a company like Red Jacket.
Yeah, I mean, I'm quite interested in terms of Jude. Did you get what you expected on your first day and second day?
I feel like a lot of people, they start jobs and you expect to feel like this new guy, like what's this? But I just felt like I fit in. You know what I mean? And Millie was so welcoming. She showed me the ropes and everything. It was. I felt really comfortable on my first day there.
And I think probably where I was going with that was in terms of what you think care is, what all of us thought care is, all of the 6 of us here, to what it actually is. What's different? What did you actually see compared to what you thought?
It was a lot more calmer than I thought. I mean, obviously, I'm not right in the deep end yet. I've only done 2 weeks, let's say. But it was very calm, very laid back. Yeah, the picture of care, it's not the most glamorous picture. Like, I said this to all my friends were like, oh, you're going to be wiping bums, you're going to be doing this, you're going to be doing that. But, for me, it's nothing like that so far.
So we spoke to your sister, Willow, and her narrative was obviously very different. From her experience, you both grew up together. You saw your mum. You saw everything she had to navigate through. And Willow said, no thanks. This is not for me. I am going to just do what I love to do, and that's it. But it's piqued your interest and you're like, okay, I'm going to go in and I'm going to see. What made you make that decision? This might be something I want to explore.
Like I say, it's something fresh. A lot of people almost step away from it, but this is so fresh for me. And I think a lot of people, it's very fresh. It's different as well. It's very different. And, it's rewarding. You come back and you feel proud of yourself,
Wow. That's the same thing Callie and Millie said. Both of you said how rewarding and how fulfilling it is.
Yeah,
so I guess you wouldn't even think, because I would have thought, in your late teens, early 20s, would you be looking for something rewarding? Clearly from your responses, it seems like that's one of the key things in terms of your decision-making process as younger individuals looking for either a career path, a side job, or whatever the case may be. And you guys are saying, yes, this is actually a rewarding path.
I feel like get skills for life from in this sector, if I continue in this career, I'll build on them, but I can transfer these skills, say I work in an office or I continue with this career in law. I feel like I almost have an edge of working with people that other people won't have. It's real life experience on the job.
Wow. You couldn't have said that any better, actually. You couldn't have said that any better.
I wanted to just say what Callie said at the beginning is very much like my journey into care as well. She was an estate agent. I was working in the city in London, and it just didn't satisfy me. It was crazy busy. Yes, I was making money, but I didn't want to do that. And I, just like Callie, stumbled into care. And I've never, ever looked back, because exactly what Jude said earlier as well, we all know somebody who might need some help. It could be our friend, it could be our mum, it could be our next door neighbour. And actually, when you transfer those skills and when you grow in that world of care, and, Millie was doing her thing in terms of law, Jude's doing the same, Callie was selling houses, Jordan was doing music. None of us started in care. We've kind of just come into it. And that's the bit we have to remember. We go looking for people who have probably been in care before. But actually, what these guys are doing, and what I've always done, is said, this guy's a welder, right? He's brilliant. He's got the most care, the best values. Come and work with us. That's where we need to be looking outside of the box. Jordan, do you agree?
I absolutely agree. Yeah. There isn't a box for who can be a carer.
Yeah.
The mistake that Joe Public have made for the longest of time, that anyone can be a carer. And that's why we are very much pushing on the idea that if you have that personal experience, whether it is with your own mental health or whether you've been supporting someone or caring for a family member, or anything along those lines, that you can apply it, as long as you're not using comparatives or being like, oh yeah, I know how you feel. That's obviously we don't want to do that. Like, we're looking for people with general empathy, and everyone has an ounce of that somewhere. So anyone can do care, really.
Okay. So, Anna, I hear what you're saying about leading through empathy and looking for people with, rather than career. As someone who works with providers and who also works with commissioners, when you're going out for a bid, as an example, or if you're trying to like secure a public procurement contract, commissioners don't really want to know that you're leading with empathy. They want to know, okay, have you employed people who have 10 years experience? Because they ask you to demo these things. So for new providers and for other providers, how do you navigate that? And this is why what you're doing is so interesting.
We have to break the cycle, Obi. It's really quite simple. Jordan has, I have, many providers have, many haven't, and many commissioners get it. So it's about us educating the commissioners, educating the public. Yes, you're writing that tender. I'm really sorry if Brian needs somebody who's had 10 years experience and needs somebody who can manage a team that do 3 to 1. But actually, what if Callie and Millie create a team of the people they believe is right, that's person-centered, they've trained to within an inch of their lives, using the academy that Jordan talks about, working with young people like Jude, who can dip in and out. Yes, he might be able to do the summer, but then he's back at Easter, he's back at Christmas, he might be back for weekends. There's some more continuity of care. So we have to break the cycle. It's just that simple. We can't deliver what they always expect us to deliver, but what we can do is create really new pathways, and that's what we have to do for homegrown talent.
Absolutely. I guess this brings us to the next. Every single thing you've mentioned today sounds amazing, but it comes with its own challenges. So as part of our preparation for this and getting to know you, you mentioned a few things that you struggle with, especially having to recruit your own family members, because what the local authority wants to pay for carers is just not enough. It's just not enough. So could you speak to us a little bit more about the challenges when it comes to recruiting? What hurdles have you had to overcome? And what should policymakers, commissioners, and what should they be thinking about?
I think flexibility is like the key question here, really. Doing care properly isn't cheap, and failing it costs even more in the long run.
Absolutely.
And most standard hourly rates or frameworks don't reflect what quality care actually costs, especially when you're doing what we do, the complex care side. And when I was talking about disparity with you yesterday, it's more around the fact that there is that disparity in rates, for not necessarily in some of the councils we're working, but in others, there's disparity between domiciliary care rates and supported living and complex care, which is just bunched all together in supported living. There is a sheer difference in rates, and the type of care that's being provided can be argued that it is beyond in complex care. We're doing everything, we're ticking all the boxes, and we're expected to. And you're expected to work within those rates, but the actual cost of care is far beyond what commissioners can imagine. And that's what we're trying to educate on at the moment, that there is an enormous cost in the background, whether it's for training, recruitment, retention, all the other add-ons that come with running a business.
Costs.
The silent
costs,
So travel, all sorts of things that all bolt on. We have our own transport division within Red Jacket, and that is a complete cost to us, but it enables us to support commissioning teams to basically support individuals who are in incredibly rural areas, because we're able to transport staff to these areas. But it's really frustrating because there are some diamonds in the rough, so to speak. There are commissioners that are seeing this angle, especially those that come to the most recent meeting, Anna. It's really refreshing to see perhaps the new line of commissioners that are coming in, or just generally people that are sick of the old ways, who are more open to change. We're piloting a scheme at the moment in Dorset, which is looking at commissioning a building of 18 individuals who are all varying in different needs. And the building itself is being commissioned as opposed to individual packages of care, so that we can build on people's independence. So someone who's perhaps had 12 hours a day in the time and task support that was previous, they no longer have that. They have the core hours, they have the medication, etc., all the things that have to happen. But we are progressing their independence. So they're not expecting someone to be sitting in their room for 12 hours a day whilst they're twiddling their thumbs. it's very much a right. Okay, I'm going to like you need that support now. Okay, we're going to support you in taking you out into the community.
This is
Brilliant.
absolutely
Fantastic. And saves money. Commissioners love to save money. So that's going to save them a lot of money.
This is the future of commissioning, and this is how it should be done.
Really?
It's not exactly what Jordan is saying. It's not about the building. It's not about the people. It's about the individual in the building and all those hours that are allocated to that building. And for Millie and Callie to be able to say, you know, Anna needs a lot more hours today, and Obi's good today. She doesn't need as much input. And actually, then when you push it back to the whole point of this homegrown talent and how we grow our own staff, if you teach and train and educate your staff to have those skills, to have the confidence, you're going to run a banging business, quite frankly, because those unseen costs are hard. But if you're able to manage them and assign them to individuals based on their needs and based on how well they're developing, and actually Jude hasn't worked in this building yet, but actually he'd be really good for so-and-so just for 3 hours before he goes back here. And I think these are the bits that we really have to take on board. The more skills we give to people, the more ability we give to people to be autonomous, the more we will grow. And I think, you know, just something like, again, Jordan's crew run minibuses and they pick the staff up. They don't charge the staff. And at the end of the day, who else does that? You know, you're in a situation where I can't get to work today, there's a minibus on the way. This is the way to manage, look after and support your staff to feel like they're actually cared for, because just that journey costs you money and petrol, your insurance, your business insurance. But take those bits away, there's a bit more beer money, or there's a bit more money towards your mortgage.
If I were to wear my commissioner hat on, this is an exercise that we do. Okay, so providers are saying this is what you need, but then the commissioners, they need to save money. They've been given a budget. Public procurement exists because spending taxpayers' money, there has to be transparency, it has to be evidence-based. There needs to be a vehicle where the money is actually seen. It's an audit trail, basically. So with all of these flexibility, are we talking about a new commissioning model?
It's a vehicle. It's not the best vehicle, because actually you might not be able to write the best tender. You might need help to write that tender. But if you have working knowledge and you are able to say to some providers that you trust, here's the hours, here's the money, do it the right way. That is probably better. Jordan, what say you on that?
Yes.
We've got modern care needs, but a funding system that's stuck in the past.
Yeah.
And that is the general problem. And there's a lot of, and this through procurement, etc. You can have companies that are far beyond companies that were perhaps Red Jacket 3-4 years ago. And they're just reeling everything in. I'm not saying that the quality's there, but if we only did what we were paid for, care wouldn't be recognized as good enough, basically. And it's really hard to measure that, and that's what we're trying to project in these meetings with commissioners, etc. The only thing they can really go off is comparatives of what was before and how it's been for that individual, for instance, beforehand. And it's just really, and maybe that's why we have taken quite a few steps forward over the years, is that we are showing them that there is a different avenue you can go down. You don't always have to be in this box of what care is, of what you're commissioned for. And we get told off all the time for over caring, if you can believe that, going beyond what we are actually commissioned for, because we will stand tall for the people that we support. And a lot of the time we get in trouble for it. But there's a lot of individuals that work with us in social care, for instance, that understand how we work now and what we can achieve with how we work.
But let me throw something else in here. To do that, you want to pay your staff well, Obi, okay? And so we're then handcuffed in how we pay our staff.
Absolutely.
So, you know, you've got Callie and Millie in senior positions who actually deserve more, but there isn't more because it's a funded service. You've got Jude, who's a university student who's trying to make good money for the summer. It's not terrible, but it could be better, you know, and they've already recognised that he's doing quite a good job. And actually, it would be really nice to be able to secure that person and say, you're going to get this rate long term. But we can't, because we are funded, and the type of care that Jordan delivers is very rarely self-funded. It's nearly always local authority funded. So our hands are tied about what we can pay these wonderful young people sat in front of us.
It discourages creativity and forward thinking. Is what's the point?
Agreed.
A lot of same boat with. They're like, well, what's the point? If I'm scrutinized for working on this rate as opposed to this rate, there's no difference in what I'm achieving. It's just they want, commissioners in particular want specialist and bespoke support and care for the individuals. They want to see outcomes, but they offer a flat hourly rate.
And Jude can earn more in a brewery, and that's really frustrating.
Exactly.
Really frustrating.
Always the saying that you can earn more than Aldi, and you can, and that's why we really try to recognise the people who are working for us, because they can get better elsewhere pay wise, but they're not doing it for themselves, and this is what isn't recognised enough across the.
That's a really, really important statement.
Yeah.
Really important.
This question goes to Jude, Millie, Callie. So when you speak to your friends, for example, or when, like, Callie, you said when your friends see your passion, they want to find out what it's about. Do they talk about the money? And when you do tell them how much you get paid, what is their reaction?
They're shocked. They are shocked compared to how much I work. So yeah, they are shocked. It is. And, you know, I get the same comments. Well, why don't you just go and work at Tesco? You get paid more there for less hours. And that is what it is.
How about you, Millie and Jude?
Yeah, no, I get the same, but then I also think I couldn't go and work anywhere else for 12 hours a day. You know, when I'm supporting and I'm working 12 hours, that day goes so fast and it's enjoyable. And there's never a moment where I'm like, oh, I can't wait to go home. Whereas, you know, if you're in a supermarket and you're sat scanning things through the tills or stacking shelves, I don't want to be there for 12 hours a day. I don't think that's worth my time. Whereas, you know, when I'm supporting, or even when I'm in the office, you know, there's been days when I have been in the office for almost 12 hours because just at the end of the day, something blows up and I'm not going to leave until it's sorted. But that's fine. I never get to the end of the day thinking, God, I just can't wait to get home, or this has been such a long day. You know, it goes quickly.
That's a lovely response. How about you, Jude?
Yeah, I exactly what Millie said, you know, working in a restaurant or something, or just hearing that sound of beeping, like it's so different, you know, the days do go quickly. Yeah, it's very different to that.
For me, this has really been eye-opening, because if there's one thing I'm taking away from the series is care certainly isn't being sold the right way. Because I'm speaking to you guys, this is something that young people want to do. And they don't even know it exists. They don't know there's a world out there where they could have fulfillment, they could have a career, they could have all of this amazing stuff. It's just not being sold to them.
I totally agree, Ivy, and I felt quite emotional a couple of times, and Jude will tell you, probably Jordan as well, I am emotional, but I'm emotional about care because I'm so frustrated by, you know, these three amazing young people sat in front of us who they're giving it their all. They're not getting paid what they should. That's not because of Jordan and Dave. That's because of commissioning and not recognising what we're worth. And the government saying, yeah, there's all these millions that we can give you. And they never did. Yeah. And they're still here and they're still giving that back. And I couldn't be prouder because, you know, this is the next generation. These are the future resident managers, politicians, whatever they're going to do. Yep. Jude, whether he stays in care, he's done this. Millie, and I think definitely Callie, both of them, they're going to go flying on. Watch out for your job, Jordan. You're going to be out shortly. but, you know, it is so important we show this stuff because this is the future. This is homegrown talent. This is red jacket homegrown talent. So I'm going to finish by asking a couple of questions, if that's all right with you, Obi.
Yes, please.
I'm going to go around the room and I'm going to start with Millie. And I'm going to say to you, what's one thing every care company should do to make and ensure that they have homegrown talent? What would you recommend we do? What should they do?
Again, I would, you know, invest in the support that you are giving to your support workers. In my case, I may not be here if I didn't get the support from Jordan and senior management team. I did have moments where I thought, I don't really know if I can do this. I've had some really challenging days and I think I'm just a young girl, you know. I don't know if I should be going, you know, doing 12 hours a day and just having, you know, awful days.
So just moving on to Callie. Callie, what do you think in terms of homegrown talent? What does a company need to do to get it right?
I think it's very similar to what Millie said. It's just support, and it's making sure that everyone is there for each other all of the time. And, you know, giving people a break on those days where they need a bit of time. But I think it's being driven, it's the support that's given, the training that's in place, and just the uplift that we can give to staff every single day that they need to keep going and keep doing the absolute best that they can. But I think it's being driven, it's the support that's given, the training that's in place, and just the uplift that we can give to staff every single day that they need to keep going and keep doing the absolute best that they can.
So Jude, before I ask Jordan, you're new to care. You've done sort of 2 weeks and a bit. What would you say to somebody now who said, think about going into care? What would you say?
So try it, there's no harm in trying it, giving it a go. It goes how it goes, doesn't it? But I think that reward you feel afterwards is just incomparable to anything else. You come off a shift of doing something else like waiting, you just long day dealing with knobheads, to be honest. But it's different. You're dealing with lovely people. The staff here are all amazing. It's great.
And you know what? I think even what you said doesn't need to be edited because it's true.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
It is, yeah.
But work with me here, because we all do that. We go into offices, Obi and I know, don't we? We go into offices with people like that. And absolutely. I think I will just say to everybody here, just having spoken to Jude after his first shift, the enthusiasm and the happiness in his voice and the person that he'd worked with and what he got from them, I was overwhelmed, actually. So, I could put my mum hat on, I could put my care sector hat on, I can put my red jacket hat on. And it was brilliant to hear somebody, because I didn't know how it was going to go for him. So, Jordan, we've kind of meshed those into it. What would you say to anyone who wants to go into the care sector? And how do you encourage other companies to create homegrown talent?
Great question.
Talking from a director level now, it's always making sure that you are showing face, that you are showing that you are human to the people that are working with you.
Yes.
Working with Red Jacket, we are all trying to achieve the same outcome for individuals, and it's obviously very different depending on the world they're in at that time, but we're all striving and pushing for change to get that person out of maybe the deep dark hole they've got themselves into, and how we work together and bat off one another as to how we're going to do that, because everyone is going to bring their own talents, their own experience into the mixing pot. So like when we are allocating people to clusters, sometimes if there's a very bespoke need, we will look to see what people's talents and what they do in their free time and see whether that can apply to the individual they're supporting, whether it's gaming or anything like that. It's just very bespoke. And I know a lot of care providers use that phrase, person-centered care, we are person-centered. It's all over, it's plastered over everyone's website, even ours. But very much, there isn't enough people, not enough providers actually offering bespoke person-centered care.
So I'm going to jump in here, because this is where we started, Obi, isn't it? And it's fantastic because it's where we're ending. So where we started were Albert and Willow. Albert does photography, he's into filmmaking, production, Willow's a DJ. And they both said by the end of the podcast, well, if I'd have known I could do 7 hours a week with a company just teaching people how to DJ, what Albert said, I can't afford a mortgage, but if I'd have known that I could go and do photography with somebody with autism who was having life skill training, why isn't anyone telling me about that? So we've literally started with, why aren't you doing it? And we're ending with a company that are doing it. We have to make this model work. We have to roll this out. Jude goes back to university in, September, October time. But I hope, and I think he will keep coming back. Millie and, Callie, they're going to take over the world. And I started this journey at 21 and I'm still doing it at 53. And I love it. And I can't tell you how much it's done for me, for the people I've supported. And, it's just so amazing to hear this on here. And you know what, Jordan, you're really getting it right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I couldn't have said that any better. And on that note, I would like to say thank you so much to each and every one of you. I wasn't expecting that. You are so passionate about this. Every time I speak to you, I learn so much. And I always say this, I always love Mom, and I think she's absolutely amazing. She's one of the amazing leaders in the sector. I mean, you brought all of us together, and there aren't that many leaders in the sector who are doing things like this. You could have easily just said, I'm just going to sit somewhere and just, but you're so passionate about the sector. You want change. You're certainly an advocate for change, and you're doing it. You're doing it. So I want to say thank you, Anna. Thank you for all that you do.
Oh, no, thank you to these guys and you.
Thank you guys so much again for your time.
When this goes out, I think it'll be very powerful.
I think so as well.
So thanks, everybody. Really appreciate it.
Enjoyed this episode. We would love to hear from you. Let us know what about this episode you liked and how we can improve. Join our growing community of providers and carers who are learning new processes and technology, discovering proven best practices, growing through insights from industry experts, all from people creating real practical solutions in care. This is the Health and Social Care Business Podcast.